The lights never turned off in cell 114. They stayed bright all night, buzzing softly like angry insects. The walls were smooth and gray, with no windows. No clocks. No voices. Only silence. Inside that tiny concrete box, Marcus Hill sat on a cold metal bed, hugging his knees to his chest. He had been alone for so long that his thoughts felt louder than screams. His heart raced as if danger was always close, even when nothing moved. He tried to remember the sound of his mother's voice, but it was fading, slipping away like a dream. Suddenly, Marcus began to laugh. It started as a soft chuckle, then grew louder and louder until it filled the cell. Tears rolled down his cheeks, but he could not stop. His hands shook. His breathing became fast and uneven. He pressed his palms against his ears, trying to block out the buzzing lights and the heavy silence, but nothing worked. Then he heard it. A whisper. "Marcus, come here." His blood ran cold. No one was supposed to talk inside the Supermax cells. No one was close enough to whisper. His eyes darted around the room, but he was completely alone. The whisper came again, closer this time. "Open the door." Marcus jumped to his feet, his chest pounding. He backed away until his shoulders hit the hard wall. His mind screamed that something was very wrong. And then the cell door began to unlock. The metal bolts slid back with a loud click. Marcus stared in horror. What was about to happen? 3 years earlier, Marcus Hill was just a normal 17-year-old boy from a small town in California. He loved fixing old bikes, playing basketball with his friends, and helping his mom at her tiny food stand. Life was simple, and though money was tight, Marcus was happy. Everything changed on one terrible night. Marcus had stayed late at school to finish a project. When he finally headed home, police cars lined the street near his house. Flashing red and blue lights painted the walls. Neighbors whispered. Officers questioned him for hours. A crime had happened nearby. A man had been badly hurt during a robbery. Witnesses said they saw someone who looked like Marcus running from the scene. Marcus swore he was innocent. He begged them to check his school records, his project, the cameras. But mistakes were made. Evidence was mixed up. And before he understood what was happening, Marcus was locked inside a cold holding cell. The trial moved fast. Too fast. The jury believed the wrong story. At 18, Marcus was sent to one of California's most feared prisons, a Supermax facility, built to hold the most dangerous criminals. He did not belong there, but no one listened. The first time the metal door shut behind him, Marcus felt his stomach twist. The sound echoed like thunder in his ears. The guards spoke little. Other prisoners were never seen. Each man was locked alone in a small concrete box, sometimes for years. Days blended together. Meals slid through a narrow slot. Showers were rare. Sunlight was only a memory. At first, Marcus counted the days. Then he counted the cracks in the wall. Then he stopped counting anything at all. His mind began to change. He started talking to shadows. He heard footsteps where there were none. The silence pressed down on him like a heavy weight, crushing his thoughts. And now, in the middle of the endless night, as the cell door slowly opened, Marcus realized something terrible. The silence had finally broken. And whatever was waiting on the other side was not there to help him. The cell door slid open just wide enough for a person to step through. Marcus held his breath. A guard stood there, tall and silent, his face hidden behind a dark visor. Behind him, the hallway lights flickered, casting long shadows across the floor. "Come out," the guard said in a flat voice. Marcus's legs felt weak, but he obeyed. He stepped into the hallway, barefoot on the cold concrete. His heart beat so loudly he was sure the guard could hear it. They walked in silence. No other prisoners. No voices. Just the soft hum of machines and the echo of their footsteps. They stopped in front of a small room with a metal chair bolted to the floor. "Sit," the guard ordered. Marcus lowered himself onto the chair. Cold cuffs snapped around his wrists and ankles, locking him in place. The guard left without another word. Minutes passed. Then the door opened again. This time, a woman walked in. She wore simple clothes and carried a small notebook. Her name tag read, Dr. Laura Bennett. "Hello, Marcus," she said gently. "I'm here to talk." Marcus swallowed. His throat felt dry. "Why did you open my cell?" he asked. Dr. Bennett pulled up a chair and sat across from him. "We've noticed changes in your behavior. You've been laughing, crying, and speaking to yourself. These are signs of severe isolation stress." "I heard a voice," Marcus whispered. "Someone called my name." She wrote something in her notebook. That can happen when the brain is under too much pressure. The silence here can make the mind create sounds that aren't real. Marcus shook his head. It felt real. Dr. Bennett sighed. "That's what makes this place dangerous." She explained that Supermax cells were designed to control violent criminals. But when people stayed alone too long, their minds began to break. Fear, sadness, anger, and confusion mixed together until nothing made sense. Marcus listened quietly. For the first time in months, someone was speaking to him like a human. "Will I ever leave here?" he asked. Dr. Bennett hesitated. "I'm trying to help. But change is slow." After the session, Marcus was led back to his cell. The door shut behind him with its usual heavy thud. But something inside him had shifted. For the first time, he felt a tiny spark of hope. Days passed. Dr. Bennett visited once a week. They talked about his childhood, his dreams, and his fears. Marcus began to remember who he used to be. He started exercising in the small space, doing push-ups and pacing to stay active. But the silence never truly left. Late at night, whispers returned. Sometimes they called his name. Other times, they warned him of danger. Shadows seemed to move. The walls felt closer. One night, Marcus woke up convinced that someone was standing over him. He screamed. Guards rushed in, shining bright lights into his eyes. They dragged him out and took him to a darker cell with even fewer comforts. "This is for your own safety," one guard said. But the new cell was worse. No light. No sound. No sense of time. Hours, or maybe days, passed. Marcus began to lose control. He scratched marks into his arms just to feel something. He cried until his chest hurt. Then he heard shouting in the distance. Metal clanged. Alarms blared. The ground trembled beneath his feet. Something terrible was happening in the prison. And Marcus was trapped right in the middle of it. The alarms kept screaming. Red lights flashed across the walls of Marcus's dark cell. The floor vibrated as heavy boots rushed past his door. Shouts echoed through the halls, sharp and urgent. Marcus pressed his face to the cold metal door, trying to see through the tiny slot. All he saw was darkness and moving shadows. "What's happening?" he whispered to himself. A loud bang shook the hallway. Then another. The sound of metal crashing against metal made his heart leap into his throat. Somewhere far away, a man screamed. Marcus slid down the wall and wrapped his arms around his legs. His mind raced. Was there a fight? A fire? An escape? Minutes felt like hours. Finally, footsteps stopped outside his door. Keys rattled. The slot opened, and a guard's eyes appeared, wide and alert. "Stay back," the guard warned. Before Marcus could speak, the slot slammed shut. The footsteps moved on. The alarms slowly faded, leaving behind a heavy, ringing silence. Marcus stayed frozen long after the noise ended. His body felt numb. His thoughts tangled together in confusion and fear. Later that day, Dr. Bennett returned. Her face looked tired. There were dark circles under her eyes. There was a disturbance, she explained softly. A prisoner lost control. The stress of isolation pushed him too far. Is he okay? Marcus asked. She hesitated. He's alive. But his mind may never fully recover. A cold shiver ran through Marcus. That's going to happen to me, isn't it? Dr. Bennett looked at him carefully. Not if I can help it. She told Marcus about a small program meant to move certain prisoners out of full isolation. It was risky. The prison leaders did not like change. But she believed Marcus deserved a chance. You were young, she said. And there are mistakes in your case. I've been reviewing the records. Marcus's heart skipped. You think I'm innocent? I think the truth was never fully heard, she replied. Hope flickered again, brighter this time. Days later, Marcus was moved to a slightly larger cell. It had a small window near the ceiling. A thin line of sunlight slipped through each morning. For the first time in years, Marcus saw the sky. It was pale blue. He smiled. But peace did not last. One night, the whispers returned, louder than ever. They circled his mind, pressing in from all sides. They're lying to you. You'll never leave. They forgot about you. Marcus covered his ears, but the voices grew stronger. His heart pounded. Sweat soaked his clothes. The walls seemed to close in. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Then went out. Total darkness swallowed the cell. The silence became thick and heavy, broken only by Marcus's rapid breathing. He stood, shaking. From far down the hallway, a low rumble rolled closer. It sounded like something big moving fast. Then came the smell of smoke. Marcus's lungs tightened. A fire alarm began to wail. And somewhere nearby, flames crackled. Marcus rushed to the door and pounded on it with all his strength. Help. Please. The heat grew stronger. Smoke crept through the cracks. Trapped in darkness, trapped in silence, and now trapped in fire. Marcus realized he might not survive the night. The smoke thickened, burning Marcus's eyes and throat. He coughed hard, each breath painful. The heat climbed higher, wrapping around him like an invisible blanket. He banged on the door again and again. Help. Please, I'm here. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, faint footsteps. A beam of light cut through the darkness as the slot in the door opened. A guard shouted, "Stay low." Keys clashed. Metal scraped. The door swung open. Two guards rushed in, pulling Marcus out. His legs felt weak, but they dragged him down the hallway as smoke rolled along the ceiling. Sprinklers burst to life, spraying cold water everywhere. Alarms screamed. The smell of burning plastic filled the air. They reached a safe zone just as flames burst from a nearby room. Marcus collapsed, coughing and shaking. Dr. Bennett ran toward him. Marcus. Are you okay? He nodded weakly, tears mixing with water on his face. That night, Marcus lay in a medical room, wrapped in blankets. Doctors checked his lungs. Nurses brought him water. For the first time in years, people spoke to him with care. The fire had started in an electrical room. The prison went into emergency mode. During the chaos, many records were pulled and reviewed, including Marcus's case. And that changed everything. 3 days later, Dr. Bennett returned, holding a thick folder. Marcus, she said, her voice trembling, we found proof. His heart skipped. Proof of what? Proof that you were innocent. The evidence that could clear his name had been buried in old files, camera footage from a nearby store, a time stamp from his school computer, and a witness who was never called to testify. All of it showed that Marcus could not have committed the crime. Tears filled his eyes. "So, I can leave?" She nodded. "Yes. You're going home." The words felt unreal. 2 weeks later, Marcus walked out of the Supermax prison into bright sunlight. The sky stretched wide above him, a deep, endless blue. Fresh air filled his lungs. His mother stood waiting, her hands shaking, tears streaming down her face. They ran to each other and held on tight. But Marcus was not the same boy who had gone in. At night, he still heard whispers. Sudden noises made him jump. Silence frightened him. Small dark rooms made his chest tighten. The prison had left scars no one could see. Months later, Marcus began speaking out. He shared his story with schools, reporters, and lawmakers. He talked about the damage caused by long isolation, about the voices, the fear, the loneliness, and the slow breaking of the human mind. People listened. Changes started. New rules were discussed. Better care was demanded. The world began to understand the hidden cost of silence. One evening, Marcus stood alone outside, watching the sun set. The sky burned orange and gold. The world felt quiet, but this time, the silence did not scare him. Still, deep inside, a question remained. How many others were still trapped in those small gray cells, slowly losing themselves to the quiet? And would their voices ever be heard?